advertising. As we all know that ads are one of the most effective channels for advertisers to capture consumers' attention. With advanced data and contextual targeting opportunities, in-app advertising can help businesses reach audiences with pinpoint accuracy. To chat more on the rise in app advertising, we have a panel of distinguished guests with us, starting from Mr. Aniket Khare, who is the Vice President, Business Development, Merkle Sokrati. Welcome, Mr. Aniket. We have Mr. Dinesh Arora, Head, Growth and Revenue Tender Cut. Welcome. We have Ms. Parul, Co-founder and CEO, vCommission Media. And we have Mr. Vatsal Shah, Head of Digital Marketing, Games 24/7. Along with that, we have Mr. Vipul Kedia, Chief Data and Platforms Officer, MAAS by Affle. And we have with us Mr. Karan Lakhwani, who will be moderating the session. He is the Head of Business Development India, AppTweak. So the stage is all yours, Karan. Can we please start?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the introduction, Namita. Great to go ahead and have this distinguished panel with me today. It's exciting to be going ahead and discussing the rise of in-app advertising with them, but we'll just take a couple of minutes for them to go ahead and introduce themselves so that we know them better and we're able to understand their perspectives as well. Hey, Aniket, would you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for this, Karan. My name is Aniket Khare, and I basically lead the media line of business development at Merkle Sokrati. Been with the company for a little over 9 years now, so I've managed to shuffle across multiple roles across operations, recruitment, and now business development. I think I'm really excited to join this particular discussion. Yeah.
Great, Aniket. Good to have you. Dinesh, would you want to go next?
Hi guys, I'm Dinesh. I am currently heading the growth and P&L for Tender Cut. I have been in industry for almost 15 years and hoping to add some good thought process from my side on this panel. Happy to be on board. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dinesh. Vatsal, would you want to go next?
Hey guys, thanks Karan for the warm invite. So I take care of digital marketing performance. 11 Circle brand. My 11 Circle is a leading flagship brand for Games 24/7 in the fantasy cricket space. We do a lot of in-app advertising, and I'm really excited to be a part of this discussion.
Thanks, Vatsal. Vipul, would you want to go next?
Sure. Thanks, Karan. I'm currently leading the overall MAAS India business for Affle. Quite excited to join this panel, and apps have become omnipresent in all our lives. And I think a very effective advertising channel for us as well. So quite excited to contribute to this panel.
Hey, thanks, Vipul. I think we should have gone ladies first, but we missed that bus. So Parul, would you want to go next?
No, I don't like gender bias at all. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Parul. I am the co-founder and CEO for vCommission. We started off as, web affiliate network around 14, 15-year-old company. But now I think as we all are exploring mobile, so very excited to see where we are all headed.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Parul. So we'll jump right into it. My first question was for Aniket. It was more to do with what are the trends that you're currently seeing with in-app advertising?
So, I mean, even looking beyond the trends that we see in terms of explosion of video, looking at the sheer amount of time that people are spending on mobile, and the massive amplification of all of these phenomenon post lockdown, etc. I think there are 2 or 3 aspects which are really coming through strongly now. First is the fact that I don't think people are looking at in-app advertising more from an inventory point of view. I mean, sure, inventory is the route to get there, but there's a lot of focus on interactivity. There is a lot of focus on gamification, and this gap between having a creative which you show there is slowly now being pursued to what is the experience that you want to deliver over there. And in fact, it's now growing to a point where I noticed that there are 2 or 3 companies which have in a very interesting way not only pursued this aspect of delivering customer experiences, but they're also looking to create productized versions of these experiences. So this movement from just an inventory banner or an inventory video towards gamification, personalization, interactivity, to this entire thing becoming a product of sorts. It allows for massive scale. It allows for a lot of flexibility, and I honestly believe that there is a lot of endpoint customization of message that's being seen here, which obviously works much better for the customers.
Those are some interesting thoughts. I'm sure Parul also has, with her experience of working with many companies. Parul, would you want to go ahead and join in this conversation and add your views?
So when I talk about trends, for in-app in the past decade, what I've seen is that since I come primarily from a performance background, dominated by web overall for my company. So I think what I've seen, the trends change is from incentivization. In-app was the only form of advertising that we saw in performance primarily, but now we see so many innovative formats that are coming forward, which also are focused towards kind of the bottom of the funnel for mobile as well. Another trend that I think I'm very, very excited for, I must say, is the cross device transition or tracking of consumers, and to see how we can pick up from where one device left off. So far we were kind of only switching between web and mobile web, but I think in-app adds a very good angle to how consumer acquisition or even lifetime value can impact to a brand.
Oh, absolutely. Good to hear from you as well, Parul. I also wanted to get in Dinesh into this conversation, where I wanted to understand what would be his approach with in-app advertising, and if he sees it as a performance channel or something to use for brand recall at tender cut as well.
Thanks, Karan, for giving me this opportunity. I think the point that I see, how we see in-app, if we talk about as a creator space, till now we talk about video, we talk about static banners and ads. In-app actually give us the, opportunity to play with rich media and actually let the user interact with the creative. That is something is very new. And in-app is actually where, if we talk about gaming as a space, which is doing much better. Now, when somebody goes to gaming platform, he interact with the brand. Now, brand also needs some space where people can actually interact with their categories. I think an in-app give us that opportunity. Where I did couple of in-app with my earlier brand for Spartan Poker, where I actually able to connect my audience and give them a feel about the game, how to play. And the same with Tendercut, I was also thinking of something on the same line to let people get to know about the brand, interact with it. So I see from the perspective of brand, in-app analysis is more about brand recall to reach out to more and more audience and create that engagement. And I think once you create with this, with the help of this, you actually kind of create, a good perception about your brand and user mind. So it creates a top of the funnel. And then we have multiple ways to convert that customer. But I think top of the funnel where we need more and more medias to reach out in a much innovative manner. I think in-app gonna help us in that particular manner. So I think I see there is a good growth look like from in-app side. I think it's gonna help brand to make a much larger and much better impact in the consumer mind using the in-app ads, rich media specifically. That's what my thought process around it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And Vipul, of course, with MAAS and with Affle as well, there would be a lot of companies leveraging the tool for the same. Would you want to go ahead and add on to the same as well?
Sure. So I think one point around in-app advertising, I think it really brings the boundaries between performance and brand to almost negligible, because finally what the mobile medium as a whole and specifically in-app creates is the ability to obviously create a lot of brand recall and awareness, because that is where the maximum time is being spent. But at the same time, bring in the actionability, because you are sitting on the device where finally you are looking to interact and then immediately take actions and either download another app or do whatever that the advertiser is prodding you to do. So I think that is really the strength of the in-app advertising ecosystem, that you can use it for multiple use cases in the manner that you desire. And like, previously what was shared, with different custom experiences for the user in terms of either gamification or rich media or videos. So it allows, really to define your own objectives and create whatever environment you like, and therefore choose the best way to engage with your customers and drive the wanted outcomes.
Really, that's very interesting. On that note, I would also want to go ahead and check with Vatsal, because of course Games 24 has a bigger portfolio of apps. So I wanted to understand his views on how he would be leveraging in-app advertising as well for brand recall and other objectives.
So great question, Karan, and good inputs from both Vipul as well as Dinesh. What I would like to say is, with the rise of apps that we are using, with the rise of mobile phone, with the rise of internet that we have, accessibility to internet, we see that the app inventory has shot up dramatically. So if I were to say that, more than 50% of the inventory today available, online inventory, digital inventory that is available is on app only, I would not be wrong. But please, any of the panelists can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm very sure that is the case. Now, what that allows us is a massive reach, and that reach can definitely be used for brand recall or for that purpose. But one thing that it also allows us to do is that those ads are clickable, and the targeting available to us in the in-app advertising space is also huge. So we can precisely target the users or the audience that we feel that we want our ads to be shown, or we feel that these are our target users, which drives the clickability of the ads, which also means that we are using the platforms or using the network or the advertising to reach out precisely to the audience that we want, and those audience can directly then and there take action on the ad, which also drives performance. So my take is that depending on the objective, this platform and the medium is huge, and it can be used for both. It can be used for performance, and it also can be used for brand recall. At Games 24/7, we believe heavily on performance, because for the games that a lot of games that we have to offer. So for each game, we believe on performance marketing, and we use in-app advertising to promote our performance campaigns heavily through this channel.
Great. Good to hear from everyone on the same. On the same note, what would be your key metrics for measuring success with in-app advertising? And of course, is there a change of approach as well with other marketing channels that you would be leveraging? I'd open this to everyone on the panel, because I'm sure everyone would want to go ahead and add their views.
I would go first. So my take is that for us at Games 24/7, we measure each campaign basis the ROI. But I see a lot of interactions in the industry, and where I realize that they are on customer acquisition cost. So few metrics that I see are customer acquisition cost as well as ROI that people use to measure the success for their in-app advertising purposes. But I would also like other panelists to add and see what they are using it for.
I think one very interesting thing that's been happening is that see, there is a constant pressure on brands to grow. So there's a constant pressure on acquisition. Now, a constant pressure on acquisition basically means that your incremental costs are going to keep skyrocketing at some stage, and controlling that is becoming really critical. If you look at aspects of full funnel marketing or your inventory based analytics that's now emerging, the really encouraging trend that I find is that the top 7, 8, 10 advertisers are now beginning to say, let's not basically say that a particular inventory is good or a particular inventory is bad. Let's look at and identify its true position in our funnel, and then let's leverage it to that extent. So for example, for a very, very large jewelry player who had this simple metric that, if I can get a visitor to visit my website 14 times, chances are that this person is likely to convert during sale time. it didn't matter what kind of inventory could be used, and suddenly we realized that there was a huge amount of exposure that we could drive on in-app inventory, on various other kinds of inventory which were otherwise considered not non-performance, simply because we had a very simple metric to gun on. So I think this whole aspect of identifying the aha moment or the aha metric, this becomes really important if you want to leverage this. And we see it happening across customer acquisition, we see it happening across customer retention. So across all of these aspects of customer journey acquisition, we find that this becomes really relevant. But I think as this measurement and analytics ecosystem is evolving, you'll find that there is a higher and higher movement towards aspects of full funnel optimization. ADH will soon become much bigger, is my sense of it. And all that is heading towards finding the right place for the right inventory in the customer ecosystem.
I think I would like to add a point, taking Vatsal thing and what Aniket has said. Yes, at the end day, when we brand see something, we see it from what is the CAC that we are getting, what kind of ROIs that we are getting. But at the end day, as we understand, not every platform gonna perform. Not every platform gonna give you a good ROI, and not gonna give you a good, a good ROI, sorry, CAC too. So I think a lot, a thing that matters, first thing that I see from a brand perspective is that key. I see if how this channel is actually helping me to get a lot of, helping me to get assisted conversion. Like we talk about Google and Facebook. If we see Facebook as, as a standalone medium, it add, from a last click conversion, it maybe sound pretty high compared to the same goes for Google Display too. Okay. But when we go, but when we see it from an assisted point of view, the user is seeing, I guess you're saying I cannot hear you. So if you're seeing from a perspective that is this helping me to get a lot more users in my funnel and then they're converting. So I think in-app is one platform which is actually doing a pretty good on a assisted conversion ratios. Where I've seen is somewhere as high as like 1.5, 1.66 kind of for us that I'm seeing over the other brand that I've seen. So I think from keeping that point of my view, I would like to use in-app as more like branding and seeing what kind of a assisted that I'm seeing and how it is getting that as a number on organic and direct as a number, which kind of my way to see that is it actually getting me numbers instead of only coming through paid channels, but coming through organic and direct. Because for my way of seeing this like a brand campaign, I would like to see the point that is it actually helping me to increase my brand searches, or is it helping me to get a lot more customer coming through direct and organic, which is what at the end of the day brand's final final criteria is. Because when a customer actually sees your ad and come directly later on, is much more quality consumer for us too. So that's what the way I see it, that if we are getting a if we're seeing a good assisted number coming up, then I think it's a platform that is worth investing for. I think Vatsal and Aniket, you must be having a similar thought that you guys seeing at your side too.
It's quite uncanny how how we've been having very similar conversations. So we are having conversations where people are saying, hey, listen, this is my brand budget, I'm spending this much, and I know at least 80% of it will go on mobile. What percentage of those are going to convert as organic visitors? So I don't think they're necessarily looking at just a conversion number or just a sale number, but it's a very specific ask. Because organic visitors then becomes a matter of how well the brand is being searched for. So some very interesting questions there that are getting raised. I totally agree with you on this.
I would also, totally agree, because I think the way you use in-app advertising or any medium for that matter is very important. And, while finally, the objective of every advertiser is to get a transaction in many of the cases, especially when we're talking about customers who are owning their own apps and promoting apps. I think creating the visibility and, creating the users at every point in the funnel is very important. And we've always seen a lot of cases where brands which are consistently using the in-app channel as in a healthy mix with their overall budgets will see a much greater long-term value coming out from the users. Because finally, when you are again and again reaching out to the users with the right kind of experiences in the right kind of environment, their propensity to come back and transact might be high. So then there are interesting cases where, let's say on, after getting a new app downloaded, the transactions may not come, but through consistent exposures and in some cases even retargeting those users, etc., the transactions actually come in after a week or 10 days, and so on. And this is especially the case with a lot of e-commerce apps or vertical e-commerce apps like fashion, etc., where transactions may show a lag from where it is. But the key difference between who gets a higher outcome over a longer period of time is how consistently are they spending their budgets, and what kind of environments, creatives, and what kind of formats, etc., they are using to reach out to the users. And those who are using the right kind of mix will always get better long-term value out of the monies that they are spending.
Great. Parul, would you want to go ahead and add on to this as well?
So my point here is a little upside down, since I come from the performance industry itself. We kind of are focused always on what the outcome is, what the transaction is, what the acquisition cost is. So the key metric that we look up to is the EPCs. We judge each inventory. We plan our media according to how EPCs are performing for each particular vertical. And so rather the CAC and acquisition is something that we have fixed in the performance channel. So we kind of backtrack it to EPCs while we are trying to plan our inventories.
It's actually very interesting to hear from you and Vipul, because you worked with global companies as well as with companies in India. Do you actually see some challenges with in-app advertising being similar in all regions, or do they differ from companies which work for different regions and with India? Parul, would you want to take it up? And it'll be great to also know Vipul's thoughts on this.
Well, sure. So it's quite interesting, actually. When we started off in web 15 years back, we kind of knew that we are a decade behind the West, and all the technologies or metrics or whatever we do at web in performance will be lagging by 10 years, and it still is kind of the case. But with the way our country's adoption to mobile has been, it was very, very kind of speculated that we will no longer see that lag. We will see that we are keeping up with technology. We will have, the same, we will talk the same language as global brands. But, in performance, I kind of still see that huge disparity. So when I talk to a global brand, there we are actually talking about cross device tracking. We are actually talking about different forms of attribution, whereas when we talk about domestic clients, we are still running two different campaigns, one for web and one for mobile, and one for web and mobile web, and one for app. So I think it's very interesting. It's something that just I am not able to understand, because the way we've grown in mobile, we should have kind of adopted technology also much faster than the pace that we are at. Obviously, there are challenges, there are business limitations, there are other limitations as well. But just, from an outsider perspective, this is kind of as a marketing company, this is kind of my thought.
Parul. Vipul, would you want to add on to this as well? I'm sure that you've worked with a lot of companies across the globe.
So I think the big difference which I see is really the expectations and the way, the entire problem definition happens in India versus some of the other markets. So in India, you consistently, there are broadly a few categories of problems that we get to solve through in-app advertising. So one is that, I want scale, but I want to pay, let's say 10 rupees or 5 rupees, or, sometimes something in that range for getting a new install. The second kind of problem that we get is that I want your help in driving X number of transactions. The third kind of problem that we might be getting is that you get us an app user and we want a certain retention metric, etc. But it's all basically very KPI driven, very end outcome driven. Whereas when you go to some of the international markets, you realize that the mindset is much more evolved, and people understand the value of creating a holistic marketing plan. And while they would be spending money and wanting these kinds of objectives, but they are more put forth as eventual optimization targets versus being the only metric that is getting tracked. So especially when you look at programmatic advertising, etc., the advertisers have the maturity to understand that it will take time to try out different channels, different apps, different ad units, etc. And the KPI is actually a goal to which you are incrementally always trying to get to, and not something where in 3 days or 5 days you would end the campaign saying that, sorry, I mean, we tried and you did not, your CAC was 1.5x, or your number, the traffic that we wanted was, retention was 50% lower, or things like that. So that is the big difference in the mindset which I see. And I think the Indian advertisers also need to get there, where they understand that the end objective is an outcome of different approaches. And that is not really the only thing that one can gun for, because otherwise you will get very one-sided outcomes to your campaigns, and the long-term retention and quality of users would suffer.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. On the same note, we see that, of course, iOS has already implemented privacy restrictions on advertisers accessing user device identifiers. And of course, there are also talks with Google and Facebook and other platforms going through the same way as well. So, Vatsal, this question was for you, and I'd also want to hear from Aniket as well, on how do you think a marketer will adapt to this change in this environment?
Great question, Karan, and very relevant in today's scenario where our lives are changing upside down, like with companies like Affle, like Facebook implementing different changes, and that affects us like massively because the system that we are in. So yes, the privacy restrictions have come in from iOS. They have come in from Facebook. Facebook has deprecated their advanced mobile measurement system. Google is likely to follow. A lot of challenges are there that we face as marketeers, especially as performance marketeers, because we tend to track the performance of our ads, the performance of channel, the performance of what is performing, what is not performing. So in order to cope up with it, I guess we are yet to evolve as an industry. How are we going to do it? We are yet to come up with concrete solutions, because these changes are fairly new to the system. But I'm very sure that there would be we would overcome these challenges, because at the end, the space, the demand for these channels is huge. The performance pressures on marketeers is huge. The brands need it. So huge demand for this. How are we going to overcome the measurement piece is challenging. But to add to that, what I also see is that the kind of measurement that I'm talking about is at present implemented with very few brands. I mean, very few advertisers out there go actually and track the LTV at a user level. So which user is coming from which ad, what is the LTV? So that tracking is still there. We're still yet to reach there. So while the changes are yes, significant, I'm sure it will affect a lot of us in some way or the other way. But we are still yet to reach there where it impacts us like totally out of, like, throws it out of the picture completely. So we are yet to reach there. We are still reaching there. And while we try to, as advanced advertisers, we try to cope up with these challenges, I'm sure there would be some solution or the other, because a lot of people would be working on it. As we see a solution, as we see a huge problem, there is a huge value to add. So a lot of people would be working there, and we would see some nice solutions coming up soon.
Oh, great, good to know. Aniket, would you want to add on to this as well?
Yeah, this is almost one of my favorite topics so far as reading is concerned. See, I see this as some kind of a meeting point of three major phenomenon that we observe, right? first, at least within the Indian ecosystem, there's a phenomenal amount of scaling that's happening, right? Like I don't think any 3 or 4 years have added more people on devices and more people on personalized devices as much as the Indian ecosystem has done today. The second part is that there is increasing amount of scrutiny on what all do people share without even them knowing it. So this whole regulatory aspect and this whole privacy aspect kind of acts as a dampener on the so-called what you can leverage the scaling to. And third part is that at the same time, there is still this huge amount of need for every individual brand to have the right insights coming in from their data. So what does this eventually point to? I personally feel, so these are like almost 3 forces that are acting on our ecosystem now. And at the advertising ecosystem level, actually, there are a lot more things which are getting automated. You've seen Google automate through UAC, you've seen Facebook automate through AAA campaigns, and there's a general amount of automation at scale, which is becoming another phenomenon, right? So I personally see that there are three major call outs so far as marketers are concerned. The first part is that I think no matter what happens, it's a change which we need to embrace. I don't think the world is ever going to get as open or as uncontrolled as it was before us. So we just need to embrace more and more control, more and more possibility of people asking us what all we are measuring, so on and so forth. One. Second, in face of this entire automated ecosystem, right, it's becoming really critical. I mean, I don't think there has been a more relevant time where we can say that brands need to have a very strong handle on their own first party data. There have been conversations where, I mean, still about 3-4 years back when I used to hear a lot about third party data, and I used to be talking about first party data and it would stick out like a sore thumb simply because it wasn't fashionable enough to talk about first party data back then. But I don't think there's been a better time for, and more from a need perspective for brands now to invest in technology and analytical systems to leverage their first party data. And the third major aspect is that in face of an evolving automated ecosystem where there are fewer and fewer options for bid control, brands have to figure out what kind of post-conversion controls can be passed back into campaigns. I think this is one aspect of plumbing which is so critical, and it's still so easy to miss out, right? Because in a lot of cases, what ends up happening is you want to run a campaign, and by the time the campaign is done, you're kind of, oh, thank goodness, the campaign is done. But in reality, a lot of the feedback that needs to go back, it can be CRM feedback, it can be customer interaction feedback that can go back into the client, and you can create weighted measures to know how well the customer is converting. Because let's not forget, I mean, today we may have a great acquisition campaign, but tomorrow the quality of acquisition question will definitely come up. And if we want to look good in both places, the only way to ensure that is by passing that data back into campaigns. So we are seeing a lot of movement. We're seeing a lot of conversations right now. To be honest, I think the movement will happen in due course. So 3 things: let's embrace the change. Second, let's invest in our first party data. And third, let's pass back down the funnel data into channels that will help us optimize better for audience, creatives, messages, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think we are all enthusiasts of in-app advertising, and we can speak all day, but we're running out of time. So this would be my last question, which would be, of course, we're all enthusiasts and experts in in-app advertising. So how would you recommend an app marketer to leverage this rise in in-app advertising in 2022? And do you have any bold predictions for 2022 as well? So I'd request anyone from the panel to take this up and share your views.
My bold prediction for the next year would be, or for the coming years, would be that the kind of measurement we do, the kind of analytics we do on in-app advertising especially is going to drastically change, is going to improve over the time, and especially with the challenges that are thrown in from different tech giants, from the user privacy perspective. My prediction is that these challenges are someone is going to solve these challenges, and this is going to be the next billion dollar industry or billion dollar company coming in the next years.
I feel that going forward, data is going to play a more and more important role. And finally, in-app advertising will become more of a channel for delivering more personalized experiences and delivering more targeted advertising to individual users depending on their own behavior and their past history. And this approach of just carpet bombing and going after large amount of reach, etc., is going to significantly change and lead to more personalization.
Thanks.
I think I have a very, a little different view here, Karan. That how we say that performance marketers are always looking for a last minute, conversions. We are always going to the channel which actually add value to our transaction numbers and so-called revenue that we call it. Okay, but I think with this in-app kind of a thing that is coming up in the market, it's actually gonna impact a lot to a performance market. Yes, we have to adapt and learn, and we have to be ready to get into the space to how to use in-app advertising and do not see it only from the angle of getting the last minute conversion. So I think brand, yes, it will pick up. For them, it's one of the beautiful medium. But I think performance marketing as a place, people have to go up and go for it. I think that's where I see the major change, that the performance market will start talking from a lot from a creative and engagement perspective. Okay, and that's gonna be changing the way right now we buy the media. So that's where we see one change that will happen. Second, from I'm taking the Vatsal point of view, that it is a $1 billion idea that we have to figure out how to track our our investment on our media and the ROI on the media. So if as I think there will be people who will be working on it to how to figure it out. So I think that's gonna be game changer for us, because Google and Facebook and iOS, I think, and all with time Microsoft and everybody will throw these challenges to us, and we need we will be having tools who are going to help us to combat that kind of a thing. So that is one area. So these tools, I think this is going to be majorly thought that we have to see in the next few years that are going to plan out for us.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to go here and moderate this panel and of course listen in from industry experts. The rise of in-app advertising, of course, fuels all 4 stages with acquisition, conversion, retention, and engagement. So great to have everyone today, and I'll now forward this to the team at AdGully for the next couple of sessions. Have a good day ahead.
Thank you so much, Karan. Would like to thank you personally for being such a wonderful moderator in the session, and thank you so much, each and everyone who were in the discussion, for giving us so many insightful thoughts. That was one such wonderful conversation, I must say. I must thank all of you who have been into this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
have a good day.
Moving
Bye.
forward, before we